Jeffrey Epstein's Zorro Ranch in New Mexico has never been searched, even though numerous survivors testified about the horrible things that took place there. The recently released Epstein Files mention the ranch over 4,000 times, and there are now new calls for the property to be investigated. The FBI searched his Manhattan townhouse, private island, and Palm Beach mansion, but for some reason they never made it to Zorro Ranch. When the DOJ cut Epstein's infamous non prosecution agreement in 2008, the whole investigation was narrowly focused on his crimes in Florida. The DOJ's own Office of Professional Responsibility later reviewed that decision and found that the federal government was uniquely positioned to fully investigate Epstein's other properties, but the investigation was closed before it ever expanded. Nobody was looking at Zorro Ranch because the people who had the authority to look had already closed the book. When federal prosecutors in New York finally reopened the case in 2019, they focused on Manhattan and Palm Beach, but no warrant was ever obtained for Zorro Ranch. A December 2019 email between a federal prosecutor and a lawyer for Epstein's estate confirmed that authorities had not searched the New Mexico property before the investigation was closed. Epstein purchased Zorro Ranch in 1993 from former New Mexico Governor Bruce King. The King family appears in Epstein's Little Black Book of Contacts, and Epstein donated money to Bruce King's son, Gary King, who went on to serve as New Mexico's Attorney General from 2007 through 2015. Gary King received $15,000 from Epstein in 2006 during his first run for Attorney General, then received another $35,000 from Epstein-linked firms in 2014. The son of the man who sold Epstein the ranch was running the state's top law enforcement office for 8 years while Epstein was actively using the property. Then there's Bill Richardson, who served as governor from 2003 through 2010. His people initially claimed he only visited the ranch once in 2002. The recently released DOJ files tell a very different story. Emails show Richardson arranged to meet with Epstein at least 9 times after Epstein's 2008 conviction, including a visit to Epstein's private island. He was scheduling meetings with Epstein as late as 2018, just over a year before Epstein's final arrest. Virginia Giuffre testified that Richardson assaulted her, and he denied the allegations before his death in 2023. But recently, the University of New Mexico Hospital quietly removed his name from one of its buildings. When you have the former governor's family selling you the land, the current governor meeting with you after your conviction, and the attorney general taking your donations, who exactly is going to order a search of your ranch? There was one moment when the ranch could have actually been searched. In early 2019, months before Epstein was arrested in New York, New Mexico Attorney General Hector Balderas opened his own investigation into potential crimes at the property. 2 or more women came forward as victims. Investigators collected over 100 pages of flight records showing more than 90 flights tied to Epstein's plane going in and out of New Mexico. Then the Federal Department of Justice under Donald Trump stepped in and told New Mexico to back off. The state was informed that the case was being prosecuted in New York and that their help would not be needed, but the investigation was shut down within the year, and no search ever happened. When whatever happened to Epstein occurred, the whole investigation was shut down. State Representative Andrea Romero, who is now pushing for a truth commission on the ranch, said the overlapping jurisdiction with federal investigators prevented the state from acting on its own. In November of 2019, a few months after Epstein's death certificate was published, a local conservative radio host in Albuquerque named Eddie Aragon received an email from an encrypted Proton Mail account. The sender claimed to be a former staff member at Zorro Ranch, and he said that at least 2 young victims of Epstein were buried on the property. The sender said he had 7 videos proving his claims and offered to send them on a thumb drive in exchange for 1 Bitcoin, which was about $10,000 at the time. Aragon didn't respond and instead forwarded the email to the FBI right away. The FBI assured him that they would tell him whether they investigated and what they found, but he never heard anything back. He later said the email felt very legitimate and he believed it came from someone he had already spoken to who had worked at the ranch. The email sat in government files for over 6 years until it was made public in the DOJ's recent document releases. A few years later, in 2023, the ranch was sold to a company called San Rafael Ranch LLC for an undisclosed amount. That LLC had been created just 1 month before the purchase, which made it clear that the buyer did not want to be known. The ranch was renamed, the address was changed, and every visible connection to Epstein was scrubbed from the property records. New Mexico allows anonymous property ownership through LLCs, so the buyer's identity stayed hidden for years. It wasn't until the owners contested its tax valuation that reporters traced the ownership. The property had been assessed at $21.1 million, but the owners protested, arguing that the notoriety of the property justified a lower value. The county assessor dropped it to $13.4 million. Public records revealed the true owner is Don Huff Fines, a Texas real estate mogul and the current frontrunner in the Republican primary for Texas comptroller. His wife, Mary Catherine, is listed as a trustee. His son Colin is listed as the entity's manager. Huff Fines brands himself as a courageous MAGA Republican. He has endorsements from Ted Cruz, Vivek Ramaswamy, and was very recently endorsed by Turning Point Action. Huff Fines' campaign says he raised over $1.5 million for Trump's campaigns and was a sponsor of the Trump-Vance inaugural committee. His son, Russell Huff Fines, was hired by the Trump administration in June of 2025 as Associate Director of Agency Outreach in the White House Office of Cabinet Affairs. That position coordinates interactions between the White House and federal agencies, including the Department of Justice, which is the same agency currently covering up the Epstein Files. Huff Fines has even gotten criticism from his own party for his purchase of Zorro Ranch. Wayne Hamilton, the former executive director of the Republican Party of Texas, said the purchase shows incredibly bad judgment. Texas Governor Greg Abbott's own campaign consultant called it a sleazeball secret land deal. When reporters asked for an explanation, Huff Fines' spokesperson said the family purchased the property at a public auction and that the proceeds benefited Epstein's victims. An attorney for Epstein's estate contradicted that, telling reporters the proceeds went to estate administration, including payment of creditors. Huff Fines himself has not spoken publicly about the purchase and did not respond to reporters. Land Commissioner Garcia Richards sent a letter on February 10th to both the state and federal departments of justice, asking them to investigate the burial allegations and use radar and search dogs on the land surrounding the ranch. There are currently efforts underway to force a new investigation of the property through Congress, and new Epstein file releases continue to put the pressure on local, state, and federal authorities. If you like this video, please subscribe to my channel to see more content like this and to join the discussion in my live stream every night at 10 p.m. Eastern.